Good afternoon and welcome back to the show, Andrea. We'll be moving on from last week, discovering who you were and what you do as a job.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me come back and having this opportunity to discuss the world of speech pathology or speech language therapy. We all have kind of certifications and licensures, and I'm happy to talk about our service for those with Parkinson's.
Yes, because I mean, to be fair, the system is slightly different in each country, whether it be, in fact, it's different from Scotland to England, never mind Scotland to America. So there is a lot of big comparisons, and it's good for people to know how to get from A to B to C. So we are just mapping things out for people.
Yes. Yeah, and I wanted to describe maybe why or how someone would end up with a specially trained speech pathologist or speech language therapist to help them with their Parkinson's. Sometimes people think of speech therapy for something completely different and don't have that idea that it can help those with Parkinson's.
Absolutely. So, in that having that in mind.
Well, let me go through kind of the normal things that happen.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so speech language pathology or speech language therapy covers lots of things. They cover speaking clearly, thinking clearly, and swallowing safely. There's other items in there as well, but those are the main points, especially for those with Parkinson's. So why would someone start? I kind of think of four different ways. They either hear from friends of programs that specialized speech therapists have been trained in, such as the LSVT loud or big portion, or the Speak Out from the nonprofit Parkinson's Voice Project. Those are two programs that specially trained speech therapists can be trained in and then provide that information and provide that guidance through therapy with someone. So they could go through those websites and those listservs to find someone that's licensed in their area or even their region to find their contact information and kind of self-refer, saying that they have some changes in their voice, either their care partner or their loved ones are saying that, or they're noticing some changes in their voice and they want to head a different direction. They want to improve their voice quality so they can go to restaurants and speak clear and loud enough, not trail off at the end of a sentence or trail off at the end of the day and not be able to communicate as well. So that's kind of where some people could go. They could go through one of those programs that they've heard about, either online or through a friend. Again, that's LSVT Loud or the Speak Out program. There's other speech therapists that don't have that training, but they do still provide speech therapy for those with Parkinson's. I do want to highlight that as well, though. The other option is that the other person is going through their doctor, and what is it called on?
And we call it general practitioner.
Yeah, the
That's
GP.
like primary care.
Yes. I mean, I even heard of like the Parkinson's nurse as well.
We do have them as well. Our Parkinson's nurses are specialised in Parkinson's, obviously. So they're slightly higher than an ordinary nurse.
Yeah.
Basically, they're a nurse practitioner.
Yes. Okay, great. And we have that too. Thank you for connecting those professions. So that appointment with them, that could trigger a referral from the provider to say, you need some speech therapy, go forth and start that speech therapy journey with someone. They might have a direct referral to someone who has experience with treating and helping those with Parkinson's for speech therapy, or they might still have to go to that listserv online for one of those programs. And the other one is someone comes to the nurse practitioner, the physician assistant on this end, the neurologist, the GP, and says, I'm noticing these changes. I'm noticing some swallowing, thinking, or speaking changes or voicing changes. What can we do for that? And then the neurologist gets to decide if it's warranted to start that journey. So that's kind of where I see it as 4 different options: self-referral for 2 different programs, or the doctor is telling them that they need to start it,
Yeah.
or you start the conversation yourself with the doctor to say, hey, is this something that I need at this time? We know that for even swallowing alone, we know that over 80% of those with Parkinson's develop swallowing issues during their journey. We also know that aspiration pneumonia related to swallowing difficulties is a big component of decreased life expectancy, difficulty medical-wise, medical diagnoses, complications that way. But with that said, we also know that speech and hoarseness, low vocal quality, the mumbling, the quiet voice, that tends to happen with, I would say, majority of those with Parkinson's at some time during their journey.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I think that for me, the first point was people saying to me, sorry, what did you say? And I think after a couple of months, I realised that it was the problem was lying in my direction, if you like, not everybody in the world that comes and says to you, I'm finding it hard to see you listen to what you're saying is going to be wrong with it.
Yes. Oh, yes. We are taught as speech therapists that the person with Parkinson's has no idea of their difficulty with speech or voice because of the feedback system with Parkinson's is impaired. I don't want to paint that picture too broadly, though, because people do recognize the voice has changed. Especially, I think there might be a discrepancy between young onset Parkinson's and non-young onset Parkinson's. But we're still learning so much about Parkinson's. Anyways, we're taught as speech therapists that the person with Parkinson's has no idea. I'm not finding that to be as true. A lot of people come to me saying that they're having trouble and they need some guidance. Other times people get a referral sent to say my practice. I call them up and they say, I have no idea why I'm being referred to you. So we want to consider that. We want them to know the difficulty with communicating with Parkinson's is pretty common, and sometimes we don't realize the difficulties there. So as a therapist, we kind of guide them through that process to realize, and then really just kind of tell them where they could be, perhaps. Sometimes that includes recording their voice. Sometimes that includes having them fill out surveys, having them go back and talk to their loved ones and see if they're having difficulty communicating. Sometimes the person with Parkinson's says that the world has developed a hearing loss just because they think that their body is doing all the intentional speech, the loud speech, and they feel like they're being loud enough, but people aren't hearing them. So they think it's people who around them are having the hearing loss.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, nobody wants to admit their body's failing them, at any point. So I can completely understand that, because sometimes you don't think it's you until again somebody says, sorry, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you say it again?
Yeah, that's totally true. And then that's where those conversations, we have in our training, we have a background in some classes of counseling and kind of understanding like where they're coming from and trying to get them to a point of understanding and being able to make a decision if they want to have speech therapy or not. But those questions come up and I say, like, how often does someone ask you to repeat yourself? How often do you initiate a conversation? How often can you follow through with a conversation? There's a lot of different kind of probing questions that we can have to help them paint the picture and decide. And then we pull out the sound pressure level meters and really get a gauge at how loud they can be and if there's any fading of the voice or even just the clarity of their sounds when it comes out through normal sounds, through complex conversations. And then also I add kind of doing 2 things at once with their body. They're moving, having a pattern happen with their hands going back and forth while they're communicating. See if those numbers of the sound pressure level meter drop. Just give them kind of paint a picture and say, this is what I'm finding. If I clue them and they can get loud, when they at first come in and they're quiet, then I say that you're a candidate to be able to be loud, like nothing is injured in there. We are just not activating those muscles. A lot of it's kind of an automatic process, like swallowing, and then speaking clearly. We don't really think about those muscles as much, but they're not impaired. Like those muscles are in there, nerves are intact. We're just not activating them. And so that gives them an understanding that it's not their fault. It's Parkinson's, completely able to blame it on Parkinson's at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is the muscle memory there for it.
Yeah. And then like if we're not using it, then we're kind of limiting the activation of those muscles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then therefore not when they try to be loud without guidance of a speech therapist, then they can't overcome that barrier of Parkinson's. That they try to break through it, but they can't. They need some more guidance. I also have found people say, comment on my intake forms or in their conversations that they've noticed their singing has changed. Have you noticed that, Thomas?
Yes, I definitely have noticed my range has changed for starters. I can't get as high as I used to could. But I've got a lower range, so so it's more baritone. But yes, I've noticed changes in the strength of my voice. The loudness not so much because I keep working on it, but the actual strength of the notes I'm singing out, the quality of them, the thickness of them, the tone is a bit sometimes, sitting on the edge. Almost like you're ready to crack, your voice is ready to crack. And I think it's just fear with people because as a performer, you're scared to go for that note in case you make it a right, excuse the language, but a bum note, so. And I think that fear actually causes you not to get the note you're going for.
How interesting.
I mean? So it's a big vicious circle. The fear of making a mistake or not, being out of key causes you to be out of key because you're scared about it.
Yeah. So do you start to like not hit the note then? Well, not go for it?
People have a similar note or a note that's an octave under. It's still the same note, but it's not as high and it's not with that impact. It's not got the dynamics, let's put it that way. But we work on ourselves psychologically as well as performers because standing in front of 60,000 people, it's no easy, and it's scary. And I actually find that smaller crowds are more scary than larger crowds because you can actually see their faces. But you have to work on your mindset as well.
Yeah.
You have to be professional, but you also have to work vocally by exercising your voice, breathing exercises, looking after your voice. Don't smoke, don't drink coffee, don't eat chocolate, don't eat milk, no dairy products. But if you were really serious about your job, you would do all these things. Just as an athlete would, look after their bodies and take the supplements they needed for.
That's interesting comment about the athlete. That's what a lot of people feel like they're being told. I imagine with those with Parkinson's, even if they're not a singer, just saying that they like have to become this athlete because exercise is such a great medicine for Parkinson's.
And as little as you can do is better than nothing at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're going to go to the local shop, just walk.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. You'll benefit instead of driving.
And yes, for anyone almost.
And
I know if anyone has any questions about that, the Parkinson's Foundation and a lot of organizations have tried to describe and try to show an example of what Parkinson's exercise should look like and why, like the heart rate, the intensity level, switching it up, having fun is in there, but they try to lay out a little bit more of like, what does exercise look like for someone with Parkinson's to help combat the symptoms?
Absolutely.
But golly, there's so much there. But so with exercise with speech, basically voice, we talk a lot about voice, but mainly it's the speech, the clarity, the the slurring of the speech, the quietness, the running out of breath at the end of the sentence. That all needs engagement, but we also need to think about how it is a huge performance. You need to do an increase and learn how to use those muscles through speech therapy, but it doesn't stop at the end of speech therapy. It's kind of like a whole new program that you have to start to keep maintaining those exercises, because that Parkinson's is going to say, nah, you don't need to use that muscle. And then we go into that loop of not engaging those muscles anymore. And then you fade out again. Golly, it's a workout. And I try to make sure that my clients know the expectation that I have on them. At that point, I can guide them and I can give them the right tools and motivate them in the right way, hopefully. But it's not just a one-time thing with speech therapy. You need to continue to use those strong muscles. You need to teach yourself how to do that safely with the guidance of speech therapy, and then master that every time you go to that restaurant, anytime you go to speak, and try to have fun with it. But it's really, really, really important to be able to start those conversations, keep those conversations going, being able to be clear enough on the phone, everywhere.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for this episode, and we shall talk more further in the next episode.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me again.